Welcome to the Jean Monnet seminar organized by the Jean Monnet Chair International Business for European Union, which is co-funded by the European Commission through the Erasmus Plus program. Today's seminar is on efficient resource management, and our speaker is Maria Passalacqua, who is the director of EMAS in Catalunya, Spain. EMAS stands for European Eco-Management and Audit Scheme. So welcome to our seminar series.
Well, good afternoon. As Professor Grazia Santangelo says, I'm the director of the EMAS Club. We are something in between an NGO and an enterprise association. So we are a private not-for-profit organization, but we are active on the environmental management from the enterprise or organization's point of view. So what we try to do is we try to convince other entrepreneurs to implement EMAS, which is the Eco-Management and Audit Scheme, the European Environmental Management System, because we consider that this is the best environmental management system today available. So our members are EMAS registered organizations, so organizations that have already obtained the EMAS registration, and they are organizations from different sectors, services, industry, public administration, or whatever. Okay? So we are located in Barcelona. We are a regional association. We cover the Catalan territory, and of course after our creation in 2006 other EMAS clubs have been founded around Europe. There's another one in Spain in the region of Murcia. There are also I think 4 or 5 EMAS clubs here in Italy and another one in Germany. Okay. So in this first half an hour we are going to have an overview on the work we are going to carry out in these 2 days. And after this first overview, we're going to start working on the Eco-Management and Audit Scheme. Okay? If you have any questions, or if there's something you don't understand, please raise your hand and tell me, and we will stop and explain whatever is necessary. Okay? Okay, so first thing, why an entrepreneur should take into account the environment in its business strategy and management. So this is the first question, because when we talk with entrepreneurs, they said, okay, I'm managing my business as I have always done, and I have never considered perhaps environmental aspects or issues. So why should I take into account now these issues? So of course this answer may be different depending on the sector, the enterprise, the circumstances and situation of each enterprise. But what we can generally speaking said is that business as usual is not valid anymore. Things are changing, and so business models should also change and adapt to the new needs and expectations. Okay? So if we want to survive, we have to do something. Okay? So this must be part of our business strategy. So what can be, or what kind of reasons could an enterprise or entrepreneur have in order to take into account environmental issues in its strategy and management? First thing, it's enforced legal requirements. So nowadays enterprises have to face that there's wide range of regulations, decrees, laws, and everything regarding environmental issues. So these have been evolved because of the European directive. So we can find a large number of European directives that are related to environmental issues, and this means that then member states have to adapt to these directives, and they have to regulate these issues within their own legal system. And this means that then enterprises and citizens have to comply with these regulations. So nowadays, an enterprise has waste laws, water laws, energy laws, chemical products laws. I should say that quite everything is regulated on the environmental aspects. So this is something that the company has to do. An organization has to comply with these standards, even if they don't have any specific environmental management system, or even if they don't take specific care of environmental aspects related to their products or services. But there's a minimum standard, which is this legal compliance that has to be, the company has to take care of this. Okay, so we now have minimum standards, and so this means that we have to take into account this. The environmental legislation evolves, and this means that also it's a dynamic aspect, and it's not sufficient to be sure that we are not complying with the regulations, but this means also that as these regulations change, we have to take care and be updated and be sure that we are able to comply regularly and constantly with these regulations. Okay? So it's not something static, but it's something dynamic, as enterprises are. Okay? So another aspect are social and institutional pressure. So first, consumers or market have new needs and expectations. So what was valid or what was considered a good product or a service in the past may not be considered a good product or a good service nowadays, because our customer and the market is also taking into account other aspects. So we don't just think about having the best electronic device. We also take into account the efficiency of this device, so the energy that this device consumes, because this means that then I, as a consumer, will have to pay for this energy consumption. And I will also ask myself, what is happening when this device arrives to the end of life and it becomes a waste? So who has to manage this waste? So do I have to take care of this waste? Is it something that the provider is going to take into account? Or is it something that the municipality has to think about, or what? So who has the responsibility to manage this waste when the product arrives to the end of life, and so on. So depending also on the sector, we could also find a specific needs, like if we talk about healthcare or hygiene products and cosmetic products. Our society is changing, and also the specific needs of parts of our society are changing. So we could find people that is more aware on the chemical products used on the cosmetic or hygiene products. So because of allergies or health problems and so on. So we know that, for example, cosmetics and products that have reduced impact on the environment and also on human health are preferred by customers. And something similar could happen with food and beverage. Okay, so society is changing. So this means the market and the consumer are changing, and this means that we have to adapt to new expectations. And this pressure is not only at market level, but it can be done at other levels, like for example NGOs, environmental NGOs that are very active. Today it is easier to have access to environmental information, performance and data on products and services from the companies. So we could also face as an organization the pressure of NGOs that are aware of environmental problems And if we do not contribute to solve these problems, or if we are part of these problems, then it would mean that we will also face this direct pressure from NGOs. And of course, we could also face pressure from the public administration institutions, okay? Because public administrations want to have within their territory organizations that comply with the regulations. They don't want to have problems with organizations and their neighborhood. They don't want to have problems with the organization and NGOs. They don't want to have any scandal or any problem. So they want basically good neighbors, good enterprises working in their territory, okay? So we could also face this kind of pressure. Then another reason could be smart cost reduction. In the last years, we have been facing a specific economical situation and financial situation. So organizations have been have faced the need to reduce costs. And sometimes this has not been done in a smart way. So from the financial point of view, some organizations just list their cost and see, okay, is this necessary? Yes, no. And then they have just crossed whatever is not strictly necessary. But sometimes they have not analyzed if we are under a certain aspect inefficient in the way we manage resources. Okay, so sometimes it's not just reducing the wages of our staff, it's just thinking about where and when we are not being efficient, and so how can we reduce, for example, energy consumption, waste generation or other resources, because we are paying for these resources. So the environmental management system, or taking into account environmental issues in our organization strategy and management, means also asking some questions related to how efficient is the use of resources that we are doing. Okay? So, and these lead us to a smart cost reduction. Then increased price of energy and other resources. So limited resources means that they will have a higher cost in the future, and this means that we have to be able to monitor and control these, the use of the resources in order to counterback these increased prices and tariffs. So taking into account environmental issues means also having a better control on this use of resource, and this means also having a better control on costs. Reduce availability of resources. So depending on the sector or the type of organization, we could also face situations like we need a specific compound of material to manufacture our product, and if this resource is no longer available, or if in the future or now we are facing difficulties to attain to this resource, this means that we have to find a solution. This means changing our product, finding alternatives, or just being sure that we can recover again this material in order to manufacture it and be able to continue producing our product or service. And there are companies that already are facing this situation. So there are companies that sells you a machine and they say, okay, I'm selling you this machine, but X component which is contained in the machine is just rented, is not yours. Okay, so at the end of life of the machine, you have to bring me back this material, okay? So this means thinking that on a medium long term, we will face or will have problems on attaining this resource, and we have to be sure that we are able to reuse or recycle this material in order to continue or to ensure our production. Then, new market need and expectations. So this could be linked to the aspect that we have talked before. I mean, our society is changing, so consumers and market are changing, and this means changing the way we manufacture products or we provide services. But this can also mean that we could be forced by our competitors, for example, because if they are able to innovate and change their products or services and improve their quality also from the environmental point of view, so this will also force our company to do something. Okay, so we also have to change, we also have to be able to innovate and to include or improve the environmental quality of our products and services. Dealing with business risks. So being an entrepreneur means managing risks. Of course, as an entrepreneur, we identify risks when we start a business and we manage a business. We assess these risks and then we take decisions. So we can also have risks related to environmental situations. So in this case, we expect as entrepreneurs to be able to consider not only the traditional risks of our business, but be able also to consider the risks that are related to environmental aspects. Okay? This could be, for example, that if my business depends on, for example, the availability of a resource, and then there's a political conflict in the country where this resource is obtained. So of course it's a political problem, but we're talking about a resource, and this will also influence my capability to manufacture my product. Okay? Or we can also face another risk that could be like, for example, that within our sector, the European Union is developing new policies and regulations. So we know that even if these regulations are not yet approved, we know that in the near future something is going to change. So the scenario that we have now is going to evolve and is going to change, and we have to be able to adapt to this new scenario. Okay? And another thing is also to benefit from new opportunities. So this could be also the other side of the risks. So when something is changing, we can see a risk or an opportunity, or both of them, depending on our attitude, our approach to this new situation. So in the case, for example, of a new foreseen regulation, this could be also an opportunity, because we can say, okay, in the future, big trucks will not be able to access to cities, for example. And if we work in the logistics and transportation sector, we could say, okay, we can adapt before, and we can be able to provide a very specific and adapted service for the last mile logistics. And we can also change or adapt our trucks or our vehicles and, for example, use hybrid systems so that if there are regulations in relation to quality air emissions, we can be able to adapt our vehicles and be sure that they can enter into the cities or urban areas because they have less emissions if compared with other vehicles. So, including environmental issues is also a way to manage risks and also opportunities. And then ensuring business survival. So as I told you before, the scenario changes and business as usual is not any longer the way to do things. So we have to be able to adapt to new things. And adapt to these new things is also taking into account environmental aspects and the impacts that we can cause to the environment because of our activities, processes, products, and services. Okay? So, whoops, sorry. When we talk about business, we also talk about competitiveness. So as entrepreneurs, we are also trying to compare our situation to our competitors, and we also try to obtain benchmark indicators in order to see how our company is performing. And competitiveness talks about different things. This means that in order to ensure this level of performance, we have to do many things in our company, and competitiveness can be influenced by different aspects. For example, improve processes, products, and services. So this means that we can change things within our production side, our processes, our activities or operations. So, and this is something that, for example, technical directors or industrial directors are always looking for. So how can we change things within the way we are working now in order to be more competitive, okay? And we will see that within the technological part of managing a site, we always have to deal also with environmental aspects, because when you change something in your activity, in your processes, this means also that we will have new or different aspects, environmental aspects too, and also impacts. So this means that changing things will also lead to a change in our environmental aspects and impacts. For the best or for the worst, it depends. Okay? And improve products and services. So we always, as a company, try to improve our products and services, and improving products and services can be also improving the environmental performance of these products and services. Okay? So this means also innovate our business model or the options that we provide to our customers or the way we communicate with our customers. Okay? So changing and evolving. And understanding needs and expectations of the customers and the market. We saw before that we have to adapt to these needs and expectations, so our competitiveness will be influenced depending if our company is able or not to understand these needs and expectations and to adapt to these new needs and expectations or to these evolving needs and expectations. We have to anticipate change in policies and new regulations. So, of course, being a front runner is not easy, because this means that if you are the first, you have to do the way all alone. But this also means that when you have prepared yourself in order to adapt to new scenarios, then when it arrives the time to comply with these new regulations, you are already prepared. You can also adapt the investments or or the activities that you have to carry out in order to adapt to these scenarios and plan them in advance, so you can also better plan the investment. If you just wait until it has to be done, then you are at the last moment and you have to do things without a good planning, and perhaps you will not have the resources because you have not planned enough in time to do this, and so the situation will be not as well managed as if done in advance. Okay. Then resource optimization. So we as a company always try to optimize resources, any kind of resource. So this means human resources, materials, energy, whatever we have. So having a systematical approach in order to optimize resources is something that is good for the companies, okay? But we have to take into account all the resources we have, okay? In order to be sure that we are not wasting resources, okay? And then if we talk about competitiveness, we also have to talk about systematic approach instead of isolated actions. This means that doing things or just providing or reacting to a situation or a problem on an isolated base is not always positive, because we just react or we just answer to the problem, but we are losing the whole picture, okay? So having a systematic approach, a framework that allowed us to identify things and manage them properly. This means also that we can better optimize the resources that we are allocating to solve these problems or to react to the situations that we have to face too. Okay? So sometimes companies have a problem, let's say an environmental problem, and they just say, okay, we have to do something now. And then they solve the problem, the isolated problem, and they just forgot about the things. And then the story starts again. They face another problem, they just react to that problem. So this is not the way of working, because they're not learning from the experience, and they're not taking this information and doing something in order to provide feedback to their management system and then improve the situations and avoid difficulties in the future. Okay? So a systematic approach will help us to have a vision of the whole picture and have a standardized system or mechanism in order to identify, prevent, and manage different situations. I have included here the experience of two entrepreneurs. The phrases are in Spanish, so I'm going to translate them for you, okay? I choose them because they both talk about eco-innovation or environmental issues in their company, but also they refer to the profitability of these things in their company. And I think these are well-known companies, so I think everyone knows Patagonia. Yes, and I don't know if you know Max Burgers, but so the manager of Patagonia says that he says that I know it's strange or it sounds weird, but every time that I have taken a decision which is better or has been better for the planet, I have earned money. So I have made money every time I have done these decisions that are positive for the environment. No? Our customers know it, and they want to be part of this environmental commitment. Okay? And the other one, the president of the Max Burger, he says that the activities related to sustainability have always been one of the more profitable initiatives of our company. So they I think that they are both very pragmatic, because of course as entrepreneurs they have to ensure the profitability of their companies, but they also have been able to understand that this profitability is also extremely linked to the sustainability or to managing environmental aspects of their activities. Okay? So how can we take into account the environment in our business? First of all, environmental issues can be taken into account in any kind of organization. Okay. So this means standard private companies, but they can be also public institutions, and they can be also NGOs, schools, universities, any kind of activity, because any kind of human activity has an impact on the environment. So any kind of organization can identify their environmental aspects and impacts and then manage them. Okay? So now we are going to focus on enterprises, business, private business, but I just want you to know that when we talk about environmental management systems, this means that this can be implemented in any kind of organization. So, how can we do this? I'm going to show you a video of the European Commission that explains what is EMAS, the Eco-Management and Audit Scheme. Okay? And then after this, we are going to talk about some examples of the companies that have implemented EMAS, and then later we are going to talk about what is EMAS on more detail. Okay. I hope it will work.
Hey, you seem to think it's difficult to run a business, stay competitive, and take care of the environment? Well, you're wrong. Thanks to EMAS, you can combine competitiveness with environmental performance, just like many other organizations out there already doing it. Look around you. Those companies that produce or use these cars, planes, or trains are all EMAS registered. They operate internationally and are at the same time improving their environmental performance worldwide. In the transport sector, for example, EMAS-registered organizations have improved their use of resources in the production process considerably. But as you can see, EMAS goes beyond the transport sector. EMAS is also present in the hotel industry, museums, banking, or manufacturing. Now, let's talk about small and medium-sized organizations like yours. EMAS is easy for you too. Follow me. See, the chocolate you're about to eat is produced by a Belgian EMAS-registered SME. And look around you. Many more SMEs are eager to improve their environmental performance. EMAS-registered SMEs save resources and money. They also cause less pollution, but EMAS also helps them to become legally compliant. Taking a proactive approach to tackling environmental challenges is now the hallmark of any successful organization in today's marketplace. Now, let me explain how it works. EMAS is the worldwide premium environmental management instrument. EMAS can be applied by both public authorities and the private sector, including large companies, SMEs, and even micro-organizations. But, most importantly, EMAS improves your environmental performance and helps you save money. It improves your image thanks to transparent and validated reporting. Your employees are much more engaged and proud to work for your organization. It also helps you reduce the number of incidents and achieve legal compliance with environmental law. EMAS is good for your business, good for the environment, and good for our society as a whole. Join the EMAS community to bridge business opportunities and environmental performance. Discover all EMAS registered organizations and access their environmental statements online.
Well, as you can see in this video, any kind of organization can implement EMAS. You have seen examples from the private sector like Illy Café, but also from the public administration like Bristol Council or the Opera House in Barcelona, Liceu. So we can find different organizations that can implement EMAS, and the most important thing is that this scheme is not only for big companies, because when we talk about environmental management systems, usually people say, okay, this is for big companies because you need resources to do this. And the environmental management system has to be understood as a tool to perform better. And of course, you will need resources to do it and to manage it, but it is also an investment, so it will provide you a feedback. And for example, in Catalonia, but it also applies to Spain, and more or less the same share is in Europe, more than 70% of EMAS registered organizations are small and medium organizations. So this proves that, implementing an environmental management system is something that can be done by small organizations. The smallest company we have under the EMAS register in Catalonia is a small design company, and there are 3 people. So 3, 1, 2, 3 people. Okay, so it's a very, very small organization, a micro organization. So it doesn't mean that just Lufthansa, Bombardier, or big companies can implement EMAS, but any kind of organization, even if it's very small, can do this. Okay. So here we have some examples, extra examples from organizations that have implemented EMAS. In the video, you will probably have seen these bubbles with the results, indicators, and performance from companies like reduce CO2 emissions, reduce energy consumption, and so on. So like, for example, this MCA organization, which is a company on the waste sector, they have, their trucks have reduced their fuel consumption by 8% in 2014. And another example is, for example, the Urbacer, which is the waste management company, which deals with part of the contract of the municipality of Barcelona for the municipal waste. And they are EMAS registered organization. They have reduced the emissions of their waste trucks. They have also adapted some vehicles in order to use biodiesel, and this diesel is being produced by recovering the waste oil from the kitchens of restaurants and also from the citizens. So they are closing the loop of a resource, and of course they're benefiting from this because they can reduce the demand of fossil fuel, and they also reduce the air emissions of their vehicles. So of course they are benefiting from this. And let's see another example. Villeroy-Basque Gustavsberg, thanks to sustainable production practices, they have almost half its energy consumption. So this means money at the end of the year, because if you are able to have your consumption, energy consumption, this means also that on your budget you will have more available resources for other projects or just saving it. Under this aspect, many companies have also reduced their costs by managing better their waste. Like, for example, we have in in Catalonia, another example, the company is Construcciones Deco, which is a construction company. And years ago, they start to better sort their waste on their construction sites. By doing this, they have saved 80,000 euros per year on waste management. So this means not just the year that they have done this, but they have continued to do this, and this means a continual saving in their budget. Another organization is Autogrill, which is an Italian company, and they have implemented EMAS in Villoresi Est. They save 45% of their energy, so this means 160,000 kilowatt hour less if compared with traditional Autogrill stores. So this means that they are very competitive if compared with others, so this is interesting from the benchmark point of view. But this means also that other similar sites could do the same thing. So there's no point on wasting energy if there's someone that has been able to do to change their activities and to be a better performer. And then we have SCA hygiene products. So thanks to an efficient management, CSA air emissions, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and NOx are 1/3 lower than the legally allowed standards. So this means that they can be relaxed in the sense that they know that they comply with legal limits, and moreover that they are 1/3 under these limits. So they would probably will not risk having a fine or a problem with the public administration because they are below this limit. Okay. So from the entrepreneur point of view, being sure and being able to demonstrate that we comply with legislation means also that, okay, I know that most of the things in my company are okay, and that I will not have problems with the public administration or with my neighbors because I do not comply with legislation. And this can also provide you another benefit, and this means that you as a company, you will have a lower risk if compared with other sites, and this also means paying less for your insurance, okay? Because you can demonstrate that you have a better management of risks. Since now we have been talking about the environmental management system, and now I want to explain you something in order to understand what is an environmental management system. That is something that you can implement in a company, and then you can obtain a certification as a company, as an organization, okay? And when we talk about EMAS, we talk about this, okay? When we implement an environmental management system, we will take care of the environmental issues related to our activities, products, and services. And then we will have a certificate, but this certificate is related to our organization, okay? And on the other side, we have product or service certificates or labels. And at European level, we have the Ecolabel. Have you ever seen this label before? Yes, I think there are many products here at the supermarket that you can buy and have the Ecolabel, right? And there are no longer products that are only sold in specific stores, but nowadays you can find these kind of products in a normal supermarket or traditional stores. Okay? So when we talk about Ecolabel, we're talking about a label or a product service certification. Okay? So it is related to the output of this process, okay? And when we talk about environmental management system, such as EMAS, we are talking about the organization that has implemented the environmental management system. Yep? Okay. So when we talk about Ecolabel, this means that in order to obtain the Ecolabel for a product or a service, the organization has to comply with specific requirements for that specific product or service. So if I'm a paper manufacturer, a paper mill, and I want my paper to have the Ecolabel, I will have to ensure that my product will comply with specific technical requirements for paper products, okay? And if I'm a furniture manufacturer and I want to obtain the Ecolabel for my furniture or for certain products of my furniture, then I will have to be able to demonstrate that that product fully complies with the technical requirements that have been approved for that kind of product, okay? So these requirements are defined or established taking into account the whole life cycle of the product. So this means that when these technical requirements have been defined, they consider all the phases since the very beginning, which is how to obtain the materials and the resources that we need for our process, then the manufacturing processes, packaging, logistics and distributions, the phase of consumers' use, and also the end of life of our product. So this means that when our product finally finishes service, then we have to consider that this will be waste and that we have to take into account how to deal with this, okay? So when these criteria are set, the whole life cycle is considered. And nowadays, on the, Nowadays, for the European Ecolabel, we can have products from different families or categories. Like, for example, these are mainly things that we can buy and we need at home, like hygiene products or cleaning products, textile, paints and varnishes, furniture, computers, light bulbs, mattresses, printed paper, tissue paper, and so on. Things like, for example, here in Italy, there's one company that provides tissue paper with the Ecolabel, a very known company, Lucart, no? I think they have been one of the first companies to obtain the Ecolabel for their products. Okay? And mainly the Ecolabel is focused on products. But then we have two specific categories for services, and they are bought for the tourist sector. So we have camping sites and other tourist accommodations like hotels, bed and breakfast, and so on. So these companies have specific requirements, and if they want to obtain the Ecolabel for their services, they of course have to comply with these technical requirements, and they have to demonstrate that they are able to comply with them, and then they obtain the Ecolabel. Okay, so but mainly are for products, and then we have these services. Okay. In order to obtain the Ecolabel for a product, the company has to provide all the evidences. So this means analysis, tests, technical information, all the detailed information about their products, and this has to be submitted to an Ecolabel competent body. And this Ecolabel competent body will assess the information, and then they will decide if the product complies with the criteria. The company will be awarded with the Ecolabel for that specific product. So if I'm a company that provides different products, I will have to be able, if I want the Ecolabel for one or more products, I have to be able to demonstrate that this product or more than one product are able to comply with these technical requirements.